ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्री गणेशाय नमः। आत्मस्वरूप बंधुगण, टुडे is Shankara Jayanti, very auspicious day, and it gives us an opportunity to recollect with joy the glorious contributions of Shankara Bhagavad-pada to the world of philosophy. He is like the pole star in the firmament of philosophical thinking, not only in India, but in the entire world. He is truly a Jagat Guru because his message is universal in its reach, and he is studied not only in India but also outside India, in Europe, in North America, etc. And his teachings are followed by many good number of great devotees all over the world. In that sense, he is truly a Jagat Guru. I would like to point out a few things about Sri Shankara Bhagavad-pada on this occasion, and I pray that you should listen to what I say with an open mind. Shankaracharya was a spiritual teacher. He was not a sectarian religious preacher. This distinction must be kept in mind. All over the world, there is a tendency in the human nature to bring the spiritual vision to the level of religious worship. This tendency, it seems to be present all over the world, but this is very prevalent in the Indian society in the last few millennia. The great messengers have come in this great land of Bharat. They have presented their vision to the society, and they have left the mortal frame and went into the flow of time. But after their lifetime, the society, instead of trying to understand their teachings, trying to assimilate their vision, instead of doing that, what the society does is bring down the Acharya to the level of a religious icon and build a sectarian religion around the Acharya. This happens, it seems this happens all over the world, but particularly so in India. The most important examples for this kind of religionization of a spiritual guru, of a spiritual teacher, is one, Shankara. But earlier than Shankara, let us say the first one was Buddha, then Shankara, and then in the Middle East, it was Jesus Christ. In all these three cases, the original message of a great spiritual teacher was gradually lost sight of, and in the place of that spiritual message, a sectarian religion has taken shape. This happened with Buddha, with Christ, and with Shankara. Chronologically speaking, it happened with Buddha, and then with Shankara, and then with Jesus Christ. That is how I feel about the chronology. In the particular case of Shankara, the message is given a second place the teaching is given a second place, and primary importance was given to the supposed history or life story of Shankara. And so in India we have a trait called Purana, mythology. So ancient Indians, the medieval Indians rather, seem to have a genius of creating mythology. India doesn't have the genius of history. Now it is not for me to judge which is superior or which is not important or less important. There is the genius of mythology and there is the genius of history. The genius of mythology was there in the Indian society. Somehow the genius of history was not there. And that's why we don't even really know when Shankara was born, etc. But there is so much mythology built around Shankara's life. And it is interesting to note that there are 22 Shankara Vijayas. The name of a book, a poem written by a poet about life history of Shankaracharya. There is no life history available. There are no evidences or any such thing. Only stories prevalent in the society, and hearsay is there. And based on the hearsay, there is the flight of fancy on the part of the poet, and therefore a Puranic story like life history, the so-called life history. It is not life history at all. It is just a mythological story. But this is how 22 poems have come into existence, and now we have so much of mythological or Puranic stories, Puranic-like stories about Shankara, and a lot of importance is given to all these stories, and which are purely fictitious imagination on the part of the poets. And some of these stories are ridiculous. A rational thinking person can never appreciate any of these stories. And in the milieu of all this literature, in the sound and in the din of all this literature and all this ritualized worship of the great Acharya, the central message of the Acharya is lost sight of. This kind of religionization of a spiritual teacher, this process, people have to give a thought to it. It seems to be not beneficial to the mankind. It certainly takes away the central message from focus. And so we have to understand Shankara as the universal spiritual teacher rather than worshipping Shankara with a variety of rituals as a sectarian religious icon. This distinction, people have to pay attention to this. Then I want to say a third point, namely, we hear the Advaita, the philosophy of non-dualism. The origin of Advaita is certainly Gita and Upanishads. But Upanishads and Gita are somehow interpreted in multiple ways. So different philosophies they claim that they subscribe to Gita and Upanishads. The dualism also, the Acharyas of dualism also have written commentaries on Upanishads and Gita. Then Bhedavada, dual, non-dual philosophy, that kind of a philosophy where duality and non-duality are reconciled, that also takes its inspiration from Upanishads and Gita. So it seems that the verses of Gita and Upanishads could be interpreted in multiple ways, sometimes could even be distorted to fit into the ideas of a given Acharya. Therefore, whereas if you study the Bhashyas of Shankara, then the vision of Upanishads as non-duality is presented in no uncertain terms. In a very unambiguous way, the vision is brought out. So we can say Upanishads are the source books, they have the vision of Advaita in them, true, but the real Advaita comes from Shankara Bhashyas. Therefore, if you ask me, what is the source of Advaita Vedanta, I would prefer to say Shankara Bhashyas are the source of Advaita Vedanta rather than Upanishads are the source of Advaita Vedanta. Please understand that I am not denying that Upanishads teach Advaita, but Upanishads are amenable to multiple interpretations, at least in the outset it looks like that, whereas Shankara Bhashya is very unequivocal in its vision of Advaita, the non-duality. So this way, we should credit Shankaracharya for the vision of Advaita. Of course, we need not, it is simplistic to say that we credit Upanishads, but the primary credit goes to Shankara as far as the vision of non-duality is concerned. That is one point I wanted to make. Finally, how do we truly revere Shankaracharya on this auspicious occasion? I submit that only way to revere Jagadguru Shankara is by studying and understanding his vision through his bhashyas. That is the only way. There is no better way, or there is no another way also probably. Just putting up idols of Shankara here and there and doing some ritualized reverence to those idols doesn't seem to fit into the true vision of Shankara. Therefore, I suggest, instead of paying importance to the ritualized worship of the great Acharya, let us devote ourselves to the study of the Acharya's works, the Prasthanatraya Bhashyas. And finally, I would say, let us not be carried away by the mythological stories of all these variety of Shankara Vijayas. The only history of Shankara is his bhashyas. There is no other history. And therefore, let us not go into all these mythological accounts. Let us pay attention to the bhashyas and study the bhashyas and understand the greatness of Shankara's vision. Obviously, there cannot be a person called Shankara other than the vision that comes out from the bhashyas. So the vision of non-duality is the Shankara. Shankara is a Chinmaya Vapuhu, not a physical entity. Therefore, let us look at Shankara as the embodiment of the knowledge of non-duality rather than a physical entity. And so this is the way we should pay reverence to the great Acharya, Jagadguru Shankara Bhagavad Pada. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.